Cousin Donald, how are you? This is Infallible Arch and the Aussie School Team 6, your informal transition team and international focus group. Well, on the whole you're doing pretty well, and in 3 weeks' time, a bit less, you're going to be the big cheese, the emperor. Well, it might be an idea to get someone to synthesise Marcus Aurelius, the meditations of Marcus Aurelius for you, because his is a great philosophy for an emperor. Now, as an emperor, there's a few things you've got to do. Donald, everyone comes to you, you don't go to everyone, so please just take Air Force One, put it in the shed and throw the tarps over it. Let's just leave flying off everywhere. There are bigger tasks to be done at home. Also, emperors in the Roman times, they were skilled in personal combat. I'm sure you've learned all that stuff as a kid. They were taught military tactics. They were skilled in administration, commerce, etc., etc. They were also skilled in the arts of oratory and stirring up their populations. Now, let's hope, because self-knowledge is the best knowledge of all, let's hope The Outsider by Colin Wilson has been synthesised for you, because that's the book that came out in 1956 that really synthesised the feelings of everyone, every man of destiny, really. So it's a damn good book to have synthesised for you. And also, remember, your biggest achievement so far, winning, was incredible, I say. It was like Rocky 1. But also, what you've done nationally is inject energy and hope into the American body politic. We feel that's the reason that all those riots have damped down a bit, because, without going into it too much, Mrs. Clinton and President Obama were both energy vampires, because President Obama in particular pretended America wasn't an exceptional nation, shouldn't be the world's leader, etc., etc., which is absolutely pure nonsense. But we want to leave that go today and get on to more important things. We really should always talk on the topics of the moment. Now, the biggest topic in the moment, which was raised by Sarah Palin, was that you should leave the United Nations forthwith. Now, we think that's pretty stupid, because your enemies include the sclerotic bureaucracy of the UN, the sclerotic bureaucracy all through Washington at home, the media worldwide, and particularly in America, NBC, CNBC, etc. They're all against you. They're your enemies. Now, what you really need to do, if you think about it, what's the stupidest thing the US has ever done in the last century? The stupidest thing is, firstly, pretending that the League of Nations was going to do anything. It really folded and World War II happened. And then in 1942, FDR was outstanding, continued it on, and of course Truman continued it on after World War II. Now, this is probably because of the Judeo-Christian philosophy of the American people, as it was then very strongly, that all that love your nation stuff, love your neighbour stuff rather, and we should look after all nations. What America has tried to do, and been an abysmal failure at, is to lead all the nations in the world. It hasn't worked. All your famous diplomacy and diplomats flying here and there haven't made any difference to the nations in the world who secretly want your downfall. Hasn't helped at all. What the US has never done is lead the free nations of the world and tell the rest to go and make your own arrangements. Now, if you look at the Congress for Freedom, Freedom Hall, they're American statistics of course, you've got 44 nations that are totally free, I think up to 89 that are regarded as free. I'm not sure of the difference there. Plus you've got 50 partially free and 50 unfree. Now, what you need to do when you think about it all, if you try for a divorce now from the United Nations, if you say we're sick of the United Nations, the US is pulling out, You're going to make everyone in the world nervous. There's going to be a media storm. The media will hate you apart from a few right-wing publications and TV stations. There's going to be a Twitter storm. You're going to be that madman Donald Trump who's ruining the world. Now, we think you should leave that all alone. Now, your primary duty, your first and most important duty is the defence of the United States and also the growth of democracy anywhere in the world, because the more social democracies there are, the safer the world is. Professor Douglas Gordon, a famous professor of social and preventive medicine, said back in about 1961 that the world will be safe when it's an interlocking chain of social democracies, not social democracies where people are free and they can maximise their life opportunities. Now, when I said in a previous video that you should take a big army base somewhere in the east of the UN, I meant that if you make any formal divorce from the UN, this will be trouble. Now, if you take a large disused military base and you assemble representatives from all the free nations, no one else on that base, and you can have preliminary talks on Skype, that sort of thing. If you assemble them all and say to them, we don't care what your other alliances are in the world, what we want to do, we want to form the Free Nations Defence Alliance. And as I said before, every nation has responsibilities to devote 2% of its GNP to defence, maybe another 0.5% for new defence projects, and keep all the standards of free societies as they are. That's pretty straightforward. And secondly, you say to them, this pact will make all of us the strongest force for good the world has ever seen, and any aggressor nation who crosses any of the boundaries, whether it's the US or the tiniest nation, immediately its currency is frozen, all its assets are frozen, its ships don't dock, its planes don't land, its trains don't connect. They're all sent home if they're already in any of the 44 nations. All commerce stops. Now, I talked before about economic levers. No nation, unless they're totally insane, would attack the 44 freest nations in the world. Or if you can combine the whole 89, I don't know. But the 44 are your first start. No one's going to do that. So what you've done internationally is the same thing as building your wall to define the United States. You put a virtual wall round the freest nations in the world, and you've made the United States and them immensely strong. This also means that all the nations who are partially free are going to be very nervous. They're going to want to join those free nations, so you're going to have an apparatus in the free nations to do that, and you're going to have to have a large fund of money. Now, previously all the free nations have given billions and billions of dollars to all the partially free and unfree nations, where it's just been stolen and gone to Swiss bank accounts. That's nonsense. So what you've got to do is assemble those nations. Why I said a disused army base? It should be done in privacy. And this is your revenge on all the networks who always bag you. There's absolutely no reason for any publicity for this. This is secret men's or secret men's and women's, if you want to be politically correct, business that should be conducted on a large military base. A, it can be safely guarded. B, it's Spartan accommodation. The last thing you want to do is create another damn bureaucracy like the United Nations with a bunch of fat-ass diplomats having a lot of fun in a gigantic city like New York. You want them on a military base and you want them talking about defence. Now, this is just the start. As you're well aware, this is going to be the biggest thing you can ever do to make America safe and the free nations of the world safe. You will inevitably want a lot of other nations to join you, and what you're basically doing here, Donald, you're the bottom-up guy. You won because your win came from the ordinary people, it came from bottom-up. Brexit in England is bottom-up. Now, this is really similar to Facebook. Facebook succeeded because there was a need for people to interact worldwide like a global village. Now, immediately you put those 44 nations there, in Spartan conditions on a military base, you're saying, we're serious people. We have gravitas. And what you should do is call it the Free Nations Defence Pact, the United Free Nations Defence Pact. And of course, once that starts, and I'll devote my next video to what will happen when you start that, once that starts, you have a new ball game. So think about it, Donald. Do you want to have a nice, gentle, long-term divorce away from the United Nations? Don't go near the United Nations. That's where all the alligators swim in the pond and gobble up the little nations. Leave that bureaucracy alone. Take your team. The US has never done this before. Take the Free Nations. Just go somewhere else. Form your own defence pact. Do it privately. You don't need the media. Thank you very much for listening. On my next video, I will dilate further on this topic.